Um, yeah, so I'm going to show two different techniques. The first one being with corrugated cardboard, and then after that, just like traditional block printing technique with linoleum blocks. So yeah, so for the cardboard prints, you'll just need some cardboard, an X-Acto knife, and the sharper, the better with that. Some paper, pencil or pen, and then either Mod Podge or acrylic paint, and block printing ink, or you can also use acrylic paint for that. And then some sort of way to get the ink onto your block, either with a sprayer like this, or with just like a paintbrush or a foam roller. Any of those will work. So first, you'll want to draw out your design. And you can just do that on a piece of paper. So I'm just gonna draw out some shapes. And if you wanted to like include words or anything, this is a good time to do that. So your letters will translate in the proper direction when you transfer it to your cardboard. And then after you've drawn out your design, you can go over it with a marker that will bleed through the paper so you can see it on the back. Go over all your lines. And this is like how you can transfer your letters really easily too. So I can see, I don't know if you all can see it on through the back there, but this was like the original side, and then it's the proper direction. Well, it'll be backwards when you flip it over, but it'll be the proper direction when you print it. Yeah. So then after that, you can transfer your design onto the cardboard. And to do that, there are a couple of different ways. The first being with using just some graphite. So like this pencil isn't the best, but if you have like a really soft pencil, you can just go over the whole back with graphite. And that's the side that you're going to be putting down on your block when you do that. Or you can just use tracing paper, which I have here and I'm going to use. So you'll just put that down on your cardboard and then put your design over it. And then using a pen, you'll just trace over that design again. And you want to make sure you're tracing over it, like the side that's facing up is the back of the paper. So your design, when it prints, is in a proper direction. If you're doing something like really intricate where you are worried about the paper moving, you can tape everything down while you're tracing it, and that'll help you out a lot. All right. So once I've traced over everything, you can see on here is on there. So I guess the camera flips the image. So this is backwards when I look at it, but I guess the camera has flipped it. So this is what it's gonna look like when it's printed, I guess. Yeah. I will say that like the more intricate your design is, the more difficult it is to carve out. So like doing letters like that is probably not gonna be the best. Doing like some sort of bubble letters or like a larger font would be much easier. So I'm not gonna cut these out right now. I just wanted to demonstrate the transfer process, but obviously that didn't really work because the camera flipped it. So after that, you can go use your X-Acto knife and go over all of your lines. And I'll just go over these again so you can see them a little bit better. And it's a good time to like go through and decide like what parts you're removing and what parts you're keeping. So anything you cut out will have like a negative space. So those will be all your like white spots or the color of your paper. So if I wanted to like save something, I could like mark it as like just write save in it, or I can block out the parts that I want to remove. So after I've figured all of that out, I can just use my X-Acto knife and cut into the cardboard. And now with corrugated cardboard, there's obviously like all these grooves in there. So if you're cutting at an angle or against those grooves, you'll notice that you might kind of like bounce around a lot. So I find it easiest to kind of take it in like 2 stages. So the first stage is just like cutting through that top layer of the cardboard. And then the second one is where you'll apply more pressure and cut through the like corrugation part. So I'll just go around and cut these out. Cool. So once I have all of those kind of reinforced, now you can take the blade of your X-Acto knife and peel up the layer of cardboard that you want to remove. So just like find a corner and then you can just peel it off. And you'll notice that it didn't like take off the whole thing. There's still a layer there. And so you can continue to just keep peeling that away until you have the amount removed that you would like. So in this example, I've done one where I've removed the entire thing, like I've carved out all the corrugation in the cardboard. I've left one with the lines in there. And then I've done a third one where I've just peeled off that top layer and kind of like let it do whatever it is that I wanted to do. So you can see kind of like the variation there that you can get in texture. And then after you have that, we'll go ahead and get ready to print. So when you use printing ink, you need to have something to roll it out on, and you don't need a whole lot of it. Oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. So after you carve this out, you want to put Mod Podge or acrylic paint over it to kind of seal it off. And that just makes it a little bit more rigid and durable, so you can use it for multiple prints. And it doesn't absorb as much ink that way. Yeah, so after you've coated it with something and let it dry, then you are ready to print. So I have some block printing ink here. I'm just gonna put a little bit out. I just have a piece of acetate taped down to this table to roll it out on. I usually use like a metal sheet, but I don't have that, so I'm just gonna use this. And you'll just use your sprayer to roll it out until you create a very nice, smooth layer of ink. You're trying to distribute the ink as evenly as possible across the surface, and you want to roll it out until it sounds pretty tacky. I don't know if you can hear this, but that sound is kind of what you're looking for. So now I'm just gonna put this under here. So now once I have this rolled out, I can just roll it onto my block. And I usually like to put something underneath the block that I'm about to print when I'm inking it up, because then if anything gets on the table, I can just move it away before I take my paper out. And that way you won't get like weird spots when you print your image. So I have my cardboard on the table, and I'm gonna line up my paper on top of it and then just press it down flat. And you want to use like a good amount of force. You don't want to like crush the cardboard, but you want to make sure you've applied a good amount of pressure to the entire surface. You can use like the back of a spoon to do this, but I think with the cardboard, it makes it a little bit easier to use your fingers, because you can kind of feel where things are and like how much pressure you're applying. Whereas with the spoon, you can kind of like dig in there and crush it. So once I've done that, I just peel this off. Yeah, and that's pretty good for a first run. The more prints you make, the more saturated the block will get. So it might be a little bit darker and more consistent throughout the whole thing. But yeah, so you can see like this first one here has a little bit of residue from like that paper that wasn't removed. This one is a lot clearer with the lines, and then this one is just a perfect triangle. Yeah. And then, so that's like a pretty basic design. And while I had some free time today, I like went ahead and carved this hat out. So I haven't printed it yet, but I thought I might as well go ahead and do that. I don't really know how well it will work, but yeah. So I guess I can do that while you all ask questions, if that works well. Yeah, so I only have like a very small piece of the stuff that Crane was talking about, and it's basically just like a big rubber eraser. It's like really soft and flexible, and carving into it is very easy. And since it's so soft, it's like very accessible for people to carve into and kind of like get into printmaking. But the level of detail that you can get out of it is not as highly detailed as what you could get out of like a linoleum block. I guess like you could think of like carving into a sponge rather than like carving into a piece of wood. Like it just holds its form better. And it will last a lot longer too. This stuff is really good if you want to make like rubber stamps. You can like just like stamp it onto things because it has that kind of like elasticity or like springiness to it. Yeah, I have a couple different linoleum blocks here. One of them is mounted onto wood and one of them is not. And the main difference between the like rigidity, like how rigid this is compared to this, makes it feel a little bit more durable, and it will always stay flat. Whereas this, I haven't washed this one yet, but after you wash these, sometimes they'll curl up and you'll get these weird like U shapes, and that's not so fun to print on. because you're dealing with such an awkward surface. But that's really the only difference between these two. But it's kind of hard to explain how different these two things feel. I wish I could like pass them around, but I mean, like I'm having a hard time bending this, and it's like a very thin piece of linoleum, whereas this, like I can like almost fold it in half. It's very soft. So I guess you can imagine like what those textures would be like. One thing I could do. So I have some carving tools here. This is like a pretty large V shape, just to like demonstrate how much more difficult it is to carve into. Like that took quite a bit of pressure.
So Liam, the tool you're using right now, I know I said I would wait, but it might be kind of hard for people to see.
Yeah.
What's the shape of the end of that tool? Because I know a lot of folks are probably using X-Actos or straight blades, and
Right.
that looks like it made it possible to really dig in and get depth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can. So this is the two like main shapes that you'll get are it's like V shape. I don't know if that's you can see that. And then there's like a U shape. So the U shape is going to be better for removing like large areas, whereas the V shape is going to be better for like fine details. And there's also what looks kind of like a chisel, and that's also really good for removing large spaces. So if you're like trying to take out a whole background, you can like really do that quickly with this. And then there's this, which is almost like an X-Acto knife. And it's same kind of idea, like you can draw really nice straight lines. And it has that same blade as the chisel one, but it's just at an angle, so you can have a little bit more control over that. This set of tools is like a little bit more expensive and more specific to what I would be using them for. You can go to the craft store and pick up something like this for a few dollars, and it comes with many different carving tools in the like with the set, and they just screw into the tip here. And so they like you can like switch them out really easily. These they tend to dull faster, so it's like a really good thing to get if you're learning and you want to figure out what you need before you like invest in something that's a little bit higher quality. These will carve through the like rubber pretty easily, but the linoleum it will take quite a bit more effort. Yeah, but like a normal set like this will come with pretty much all of these blades except for the like chisel looking one. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think that's about all. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any blocks here that show cross-hatching or demonstrate cross-hatching very well. But I can print off this one, I guess, might be the closest. It's like a landscape. I can go through that printing method. It's pretty much the same as the cardboard, but instead of, yeah, you like want to make sure you're using block printing ink and that you have a brayer because the distribution of the ink onto the block is important to get as even as possible. Yeah, so I think I have enough left on here. And these you usually want to do a couple prints before you'll notice like after 2 or 3 prints, the block will pick up the ink a lot more. But you can kind of see the design there. Get a piece of paper. And I have a Baron that I usually use that I don't have with me right now. So this would be a good time to use like the back of a spoon. I found this pottery tool that I'm just going to use because it has a nice rounded side to it. And then I'm just going to press down all the way over the block. And so this is like the first print, so it might not be super legible, but let's see. Oh, that's actually really good. Cool. Yeah, that's a pretty smooth print. So yeah, and you can see like kind of like some of the line work in there, especially like in the foreground. And that's kind of the technique that you would use to create shading in a portrait. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, way to punctuate it with like a killer first run print. That was well done. So we'll give people a second to think of other questions, but I'm curious what's so special about the ink that you're using?
Oh yeah, so block printing ink is a lot thicker and tackier than other inks. And it just makes it kind of like stick to your brayer more so you can transfer the ink easily. This is water-based printing ink, which is a good thing to kind of get yourself into printmaking with. But generally, I'll use an oil-based ink because it's permanent. We had an incident a couple of years ago where I gave a friend a bunch of ink and one of the containers was water-based and I didn't realize that, and they printed a bunch of shirts, and then it was like really hot out and they used their shirt to wipe their face, and there's just ink all over their face. It was great.
I guess this is the now the segment where we offer alternative methods and alternative materials. So Liam, I don't know if you want to, yeah, go for it.
When I was in college, I made a whole like typeface out of carrots. Like I carved into carrots and made all these posters with like the lettering that I made. And that was like a super cool, fun project. But yeah, so like any root vegetables or like anything that has a good like heftiness to it works really well as like you can make it into a stamp. I made these recycled notebooks a few years ago that I printed with only vegetable prints. So these were all like carrots and potatoes that we used. We made like wrapping paper and stuff. It's really fun and like fun to do with kids. So if you have kids in your life, it's a great thing to do.
And then any suggestions for alternative inks or things? I know you said if you're doing cardboard, something that's super thin and wet would probably not be best, but any suggestions if we can't get to the art store or online to order anything?
I think acrylic paint is fine to use, especially if you put like a coat on there first and let it dry, because it's kind of creating this like plastic seal over the paper. Um, yeah, and you can just, I mean, you can just like brush it on there too. It doesn't have to be rolled onto the cardboard. So um, that's that's probably easier. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Liam. Anybody have any other questions? Also about any of the other thousands of techniques Liam knows a lot about, from like woodworking to uh, who knows what else you have up your sleeve.
I was wondering how much would that block cost that you did the hand design on? How much is that?
The block itself, like the mounted ones. Oh, it has the. Oh no, it doesn't. I thought it had the price sticker on it. So, um, so these are 4x6, and they're not that expensive. If you get the ones that are not mounted, it's even cheaper. They're probably like a few dollars for a block. Um, I have a bunch of these like really tiny ones, and they're probably like a couple dollars each. But you can get them pretty big, and they can run anywhere between $2 and like $50. It kind of depends on the size. But yeah.